Hi, I'm Nikki Schultek. I'm the founder of Intracell Research Group, coming to you today on World Alzheimer's Day to talk about something that a lot of people probably don't know about Alzheimer's disease. So for the last 20 plus years, researchers from around the globe have been studying certain bacteria and viruses, as well as other organisms, in correlation with Alzheimer's disease. The research, as of late, has really been mounting and has prompted a response from the medical community. So currently there is a study going on up at Columbia in New York looking at antiviral drugs in patients that have the herpes virus, which is the virus that causes the common cold sore. So that's excellent. However, at this point in time, something a lot of people probably don't realize is that there's an extremely common bacteria that people pass to one another when they cough and then inhale infected particles. It's called chlamydia pneumoniae. Don't get awkward, it's not a sexually transmitted chlamydia. It's a variety of chlamydia that is spread from the respiratory system. And what a lot of people don't realize is that this bug has been studied for decades in correlation with Alzheimer's disease and some of our other worst diseases like heart disease. And our group really focuses in on this one bacteria because it hasn't been adequately studied. We're at a point where Alzheimer's disease is a global pandemic, where therapies that have come to market are largely ineffective, and any new therapies that have been in development have been failures, representing a huge loss of hope for the millions of people suffering with the disease and their families. We are at a point where we need to look beyond our original thought process with the disease, and we need to think about novel approaches, and that is what we are talking about. We are talking about targeting this specific bacteria, chlamydia pneumoniae, which we believe, according to the research, we don't just randomly feel this way. The research dictates that this organism is not only in the brains of patients with Alzheimer's disease, but that if given to mice intranasally or through their noses, you can actually cause the mice to develop these amyloid beta plaques, which are the hallmark signs in the brain of an Alzheimer's patient that the disease is present, among other research studies that have been credible. And is chlamydia the only bacteria that's been associated with the disease? It's actually not. Lyme disease, which is transmitted by ticks, that falls into a category known as spirochetes. It's another type of bacteria that's incredibly persistent, can also enter the brains of patients with Alzheimer's disease, and has been researched rigorously over the last few decades. So at this point in time, our group really wants to call to attention the fact that in the absence of a better idea or a more viable solution, why aren't we looking at bacteria and addressing these bacteria in order to see if we can intercept the disease in its earliest stages? Because we believe that it's important that this be studied in a fashion that is more rigorous. Now, why hasn't that happened yet? You're probably wondering. If there's so much research, why hasn't someone done a study? Why isn't there a drug on the market right now killing these bacteria? Well, that's a little bit complicated, actually, and it has a lot to do with money. So our proposed solution as a group of researchers and doctors from around the world is to do a combination antibiotic study to eradicate chlamydia. And this combination of antibiotics would also cover for Lyme disease. So you'd be covering for 2 different bacterial infections at once. Well, these are generic medications, and what that means is that no drug company is going to pay to fund the work. The work needs to be funded by another organization. One of the organizations could be the National Institutes of Health, or NIH, or NIA, which is the National Institute on Aging. However, the use of antibiotics has become rather controversial, and somewhat for good reason. Antibiotics are overused in general, and the overuse of antibiotics means that the bacteria can become resistant to the antibiotics. However, at this point in time, with a very clear signal that bacterial infection is in some way a piece of the puzzle in the Alzheimer's disease mystery, it seems unconscionable not to test the theory, to see if that's the case. Because a long-term solution, and my group firmly believes this to be the case, is not going to be the use of combination antibiotics over and over again for many years to come to treat the disease. No, the solution is if it is proven that bacterial pathogens play a role in the disease, then we can start to work toward developing vaccines or other novel approaches that spare the microbiome. So what I want to leave you with today is just the idea that just because you haven't heard about something doesn't mean that it's not scientifically credible and that there's not evidence. It just may mean that there isn't a financial incentive to pursue it. The other thing that is working against this hypothesis is the fact that the antibiotic market in the US and around the world has been struggling for over a decade, meaning anytime a company tries to bring a new antibiotic to the scene, it really doesn't sell, because what happens is the physicians reserve the antibiotic for a time when the others don't work. So essentially they're keeping it in their back pocket. But what that means is that the company that spent all of the money to research and develop the drug doesn't make money either. And therefore, companies are not incentivized to bring these types of drugs to market. And that is another of the factors that is involved in this situation. But what I'd ask is for you to share this video so that other people can be aware of what research is out there that they may not have heard of, that is likely some of the most important information right now surrounding this whole situation with one of our most awful pandemics. Thank you so much and have a great day.